Hello, my name is Ashley. In this presentation, I will be walking you through the image repair theory as it relates to the 2016 Wells Fargo fake accounts crisis. This situation was significant because it demonstrates the public's backfire when crisis communication apologies are continuously unsupported by the corporation's actions. Bookings.edu is a website specializing in a research-based article concerning public policy. The corporation published a piece on the Wells Fargo issue. Concerning the ongoing crises, Aaron Klein said, "The financial services industry needs to convince the American public with deeds, not words, that they should be trusted. Trust is at the core of the financial system. To truly move beyond the financial crisis, that trust must be restored." The goal of this presentation is to examine the effects of launching communication strategies prior to understanding and controlling the systematic issues within the organization. I will begin by examining Beniot's image repair theory. Next, I will explain how Wells Fargo used the theory and the results of the efforts. Last, I will explain how this affects other organizations. According to Beniot, image is an audience's perception of an organization. Beniot's theory focuses on repairing an image resulting from a crisis situation. An organization's image is damaged when an offensive act occurs and the audience holds the organization responsible. Beniot emphasizes communication in a crisis because it is the means by which we repair our reputation. Beniot's image restoration theory utilizes 5 discourse strategies: denial, evading responsibility, reducing offensiveness, corrective action, and mortification. In 2016, Wells Fargo employees opened what is now estimated as 3.5 million fake accounts in response to the company's unrealistic sales requirements. Furthermore, it required unnecessary auto insurance and charged customers additional fees. The public scandal exposed Wells Fargo's inadequate supervision and managerial issues. Wells Fargo settled for $185 million in the case. They also suffered a massive blow from the Federal Reserve. Wells Fargo could not grow in assets until its ban was lifted in 2019. The company quickly responded to the crisis by firing 5,300 employees. The CEO resigned and the company changed its sales policy. The company began making promises about how they would repay the customers wrongly fined and would not make the same mistakes in the future. As a result of the scandal, trust in the company was lost. In 2018, Wells Fargo launched a new ad campaign called Reestablished. The purpose was to regain trust and distance the company from the 2016 scandal. An example of a 60-second commercial references the brand's history and claims it was a company who carried the gold east in the rush. It emphasizes the trust it was built on. The ad briefly acknowledges Wells Fargo lost the trust in an instant. The ad claims that the company is dedicated to rebuilding trust and repairing the problems that it created. However, the company continues to discover internal issues. CNN Business wrote about a Wells Fargo computer glitch that caused hundreds of house foreclosures. Wells Fargo responded by saying they were, quote, "very sorry." The New York Times wrote an article about many Wells Fargo employees denying that sales expectations have been reformed. Employees of the Des Moines branch report that their requirements have increased from a required 30 calls per hour to 33 calls, and a monthly sales goal of $40,000 instead of $34,000. Wells Fargo utilizes 3 of Beniot's image restoration strategies. It denies corporate responsibility for the fake accounts, maintaining its lower-level employees acted unethically. The organization professes corrective action to reform the bank's future actions. A few examples include repaying victims and reorganizing its sales culture. The third strategy Wells Fargo uses is mortification. The company acknowledges that trust was rightfully lost in the bank's actions and focuses on rebuilding that trust. That being said, less time is spent on apologizing, and the campaign is more focused on its new beginning.
We know the value of trust. We were built on it. Back when the country went west for gold, we were the ones who carried it back east. By steam? By horse? By iron horse? Over the years, we built on that trust. We always found the way. Until we lost it. But that isn't where the story ends. It's where it starts again. With a complete recommitment to you. Fixing what went wrong, making things right, and ending product sales goals for branch bankers. So we can focus on your satisfaction. We're holding ourselves accountable to find and fix issues proactively, because earning back your trust is our greatest priority. It's a new day at Wells Fargo, but it's a lot like our first day. Wells Fargo, established 1852, reestablished 2018.
The campaign mostly denied managerial responsibility for the catastrophe, aside from unnecessarily pressuring employees to meet sales quota. Further, it denies that Wells Fargo is the same company that was associated with the fake accounts. The final line of one ad states, "It's a new day at Wells Fargo, but it's a lot like our first day." It denies that problems will arise in the future of Wells Fargo and maintains that the organization has implemented change and will not only fix the existing issues, but focus on regaining customer trust. Corrective action is a key claim in the advertising campaign. The organization's compensated victims for unnecessary fines and other wrongdoings. Wells Fargo says they have abolished the incentivized sales and created a better company culture. Few details of how Wells Fargo is doing this have been given, other than a system designed for customers who are wrongfully fined to go through a process of retrieving their money. Given that the scandal was completely in-house, Wells Fargo is surprisingly slow to take full responsibility for the problem. Although there were aspects of strategic mortification in their image restoration campaign, upon first response to the scandal, the former CEO denied issues in the company's corporate culture had any impact on the situation. Tim Sloan, the current CEO, admits the incentivized compensation creates an unhealthy culture. However, he maintains that Wells Fargo did not put an inappropriate amount of blame on low-level employees.
So you don't think that terminating, 5,300 employees for these actions, granted they were violations, but you don't think that's pointing too much blame on those folks, on lower-level employees?
I think on those team members that did something that was fraudulent or violated our code of ethics, no.
But at the direction of their management?
I think for those team members that were uncomfortable, that left the company, that weren't happy at the company, the answer is absolutely yes. And that's why we've got to learn from these mistakes and make these changes.
Some of these folks were doing directly what their management told them.
Right.
And now they're out. They don't have a job. Some of them have lost their homes because they can't afford it. What is your message to them?
My message to them, again, is that if you violate the code of ethics at Wells Fargo, if you do something that's not inappropriate for a customer, you can't work at the company.
The biggest takeaway in this situation was Wells Fargo's continued exploitation resulting from the undiscovered systematic issues. The bank's actions continue to contradict their messaging, calling for more apologies and promises of a better future for Wells Fargo. If the organization's internal issues continue, the brand will continue to lose its credibility and undermine its image restoration campaign strategies. A campaign must be supported by transparency and legitimate corrective action. Public relations professionals should quickly evaluate and initiate the appropriate strategies. It is imperative that an authoritative figure's discourse supports the strategy that will be most effective in repairing the company's image. The organization should be thorough when they examine the systems and root cause of the issue. This could have been made more difficult for Wells Fargo since they fired 5,300 employees and had to focus on hiring new staff to fill their positions. Another takeaway was Wells Fargo's minimal mortification strategy. It would have been better to have taken more responsibility for the crisis, especially since it originated from poor management skills and a toxic corporate culture. Wells Fargo appeared to blame the scandal on lower-level employees, while higher officials were seemingly unpunished. When the correct strategies are implemented for the organization's situation, the image repair theory can be highly effective in rebuilding the company credibility. The strategy should transition into a positive rebranding of the company to fulfill the promises made following the reputational crisis.